it's a hard pain.
Here's a very straightforward song from Dylan's first period, taken directly from my big Dylan book here. The arrangement, it's not really an arrangement at all, it's just a transcription of what he played on the original back in the early 60s. So I've transcribed that pretty much note for note. We're in drop D, but with a capo on the 2nd fret. So that's the idea. The 6th string is an octave below the open 4th string. So we get a nice big 6-string D chord shape. Actually, we're in the key of E because the capo is on the 2nd fret, but before we get into the chords, let's just look at a wheeze or a ruse or a workaround if for whatever reason you don't actually want to tune your 6th string down. And this is unique to the idea of drop D tuning with a capo on the 2nd fret, but it's worth a little look. If you have the kind of capo like this one, this is a shub type capo that allows you to capo just across a certain number of strings. If I put the capo at the 2nd fret over the top 5 strings only and return my 6th string to standard tuning, the net result is exactly the same. If I'm tuning to drop D with the capo on the 2nd fret, what I'm actually doing is dropping the tuning of the bottom string by the equivalent of 2 frets and then capoing it on the 2nd fret, returning it to standard pitch in effect. So like this, I have all the benefits of drop D tuning with a capo on the 2nd fret without actually detuning my guitar at all. There are various pros and cons around this. The biggest benefit of this actually is if you've played in drop D, you'll know that the G chord can be a bit unwieldy. You've got to do all this stuff. Well, actually, because my capo, and this might be difficult to get your head around, is only across the top 5 strings, I can play a standard G chord this way. Okay, D, G, that's one of the chords that's going to come up a lot. A, that kind of thing if you're playing in the key of D. E minor, you're going to have to do something there, so it doesn't really work for that. But if your song doesn't have an E minor in it, and you want to play in drop D with a capo on the 2nd fret, this is quite a good workaround. Capo across the top 5 strings and not changing the tuning of the bottom string. But for the benefit of the video and authenticity, I'm actually going to play in drop D. I just thought it was worth mentioning. All right, we've got 3 beats in the bar. And he's striking the bottom string. I think perhaps he uses a pick, but I'm using my thumb as usual. Boom, ching, ching, boom, ching, ching, boom, ching, ching. That kind of a thing. And in fact, he plays his G, not in the standard drop D way here. He just keeps that open bottom string and he's putting a finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, which it would normally be for a G chord, and then he's got 2 fingers up on the top 2 strings at the 3rd fret. I might use my 1st finger here, and he's including that open string. So if we change from D to a G, that's the kind of idea. And he's in the habit, you'll hear this on the original, of little hammer on. So I'm hammering on with my 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string as I'm changing from D. That kind of a thing. Okay, so the intro, we have 4 lots of D, couple of bars of G, and then I think actually it's 3 bars of D. He does it slightly differently every time. This happens to be the recorded version, but here we go. Oh, where have you been, my blue-eyed son? So that's D, 1 bar of G, and then it's 4 bars of D. Where have you been, my blue-eyed son? 2, 2, 3, and a 4. Oh, where have you been, my darling young one? Then we go to an A chord for 4. Okay, all the verses, there are 5 verses, they all begin exactly the same way. And then we have a kind of list. It's one of his list songs. He has a couple of slightly unusual shapes. He has something that we're calling G over D here. Top string 3rd fret, 2nd string 3rd fret, 3rd string, 4th fret, and then just play these bottom 3 strings open. 2 bars of that. Then he's going to slide up for a single bar to A over D. So it's G, A for 1, and then back to D. And we've always got 4 of these Ds, and again 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 1, 2. So that's going to be, I've stumbled on the side of 12 misty mountains. Again, I've walked and I've crawled on 6 crooked highways. I've stepped in the middle of 7 sad forests. I've been out in front of a desolate oceans. One more of these. I've been 10,000 miles in the mouth of a graveyard. And it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard rain. It's gonna fall. So in that verse we have 5 of these. Stumble on the side of 12, 5 of those, and then we get, it's a hard 2, it's a hard 2 on D, 2 on A, back to 2 on D, hard, and G for 2. It's a hard rain, gonna fall. So it's 2 of all of those chords at the end. Okay, so I'll play the intro, the first verse, and the second verse, I guess, too. That's probably enough. On the original, Dylan's a little bit inconsistent with the number of bars he plays in between lines at the end of each section. I'm going to do the same. I'm sure he won't mind. Where have you been, my blue-eyed son? That kept dripping. It's a room full of men with their hammers bleeding. Saw a white ladder all covered with water. I saw 10,000 talkers whose tongues were all broken. I saw guns and sharp swords in the hands of young children. It's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a